So, Rose, we are here to talk about
Day of the Dead.
I love it. And I'm Dia de los Muertos.
Dia de los Muertos.
Okay.
Yes.
And so we'll wait a couple of minutes for people to come on board. Where my name is Debbie Frankel, and
I'm Rose Castellanos Cruz, and I'm an associate therapist here at Calabasas Counseling and Grief Recovery Center.
yeah, and we've got this holiday coming up, and preparing for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I know you've talked to all of us about it's the November 1st and 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, actually, my husband asked this morning, he was like, well, why are you doing it today?
Yeah.
I was like, well, because we want to be able to talk to people about the holiday, and there's a lot of preparation.
Right.
Right.
And we'll go into the preparation and what it entails and the meaning
okay.
Once we begin the presentation. But it's just to give it a little bit of time in case people want to do something special for their loved ones. And
so, you know what? So can you start by saying, what is Dia de los Muertos, and how is it important for you first?
Okay, so Dia de los Muertos is important for me because my father passed away suddenly in 2018. Mm-hmm. In the span of a month, my dad was here, and then he no longer was. He was gone. And through trying to get through my grief and all the pain that comes with grieving somebody so close to you, I was focused on the stages of grief, which mm-hmm. of course made me feel a little crazy because I felt like I should have been through that already.
So it kind of didn't fit for you.
It didn't fit for me because I was angry, and then I was sad, and then I was happy, and I felt emotionally unstable. And I didn't realize that all those feelings, nonlinear, were all part of grief.
Yes.
So I eventually went to grief counseling, mm-hmm. which was necessary for me. And once I realized and mm-hmm. learned that my grief was not going to be linear, there is no timeline for it, mm-hmm. and I wasn't going to go through my feelings in sequence. No. Once grief was normalized for me, mm-hmm. and I understood it a little bit better, then I was able to kind of figure out what my next step was, which was creating a meaningful connection with my father in a different mm-hmm. way.
Mm-hmm. And so is this day part of that?
This day is completely part of that because I remember culturally, we celebrate our deceased, our loved ones who have mm-hmm. passed. And we do it November 1st, which is for children and babies, which is...
if you're honoring somebody who's died, who was a child or a baby.
Yes.
Okay.
And then November 2nd for adults. Mm-hmm. And I decided to do my first ofrenda, which is an altar, mm-hmm. that year. It was already 2020 because it took me, I bumped my head a couple of times before I actually went to therapy. And I think I struggled longer than I should have if I would have gone to therapy mm-hmm. sooner. Mm-hmm. And, that's not to undermine anybody's grief and their process. Everybody has their own journey. Mm-hmm. But once I did an altar for my dad and saw his picture, and it wasn't hidden, and mm-hmm. it was talked about, and it was out in the open.
Yeah.
And he wasn't removed from my life. Mm-hmm. Then I was able to celebrate his birthday, which is October 30th.
Okay.
So it's very close right before. Mm-hmm. And so then that year, it was 2020, and mm-hmm.
it was 2020. Right.
It was a pandemic. We couldn't go anywhere. So we got him a cupcake, we lit up a candle, we sang him happy birthday, mm-hmm. and it was a day of celebration. And so now I just do it every year. and it makes me feel close to him. It makes me celebrate. It reminds me that it's okay to celebrate him in his life.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
can you, let's start giving some more detail
Yeah.
about this holiday. And so I'm gonna,
Mhm.
oh, and by the way, I just want to tell everybody who's watching is we can't see if we know that there's a few people on, but I can't see your comments. And so I am so sorry. I will keep trying to, oh no, I'm not gonna hide. Show chat. Okay. So if you say anything in the chat, then we will read it out loud, but we won't be able to know who it is because it just doesn't tell us that on this platform. So, okay.
Okay, so let me go ahead and start and give you a little bit of information, history, and if you wanted to go ahead and set up your own altar for Day of the Dead, you'll know what to do after this presentation. So Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos, is a Mexican tradition where we celebrate our deceased family members. This is a time where families welcome back the souls of their deceased relatives for a brief reunion. And this reunion is celebrated with food and drinks that were favorite of the person who passed away.
Okay.
The origins of Day of the Dead are celebrations. They go back about some 3,000 years to the rituals honoring the dead in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica.
I had no idea that it went back that far.
Right?
Yeah.
The Aztecs and other Nahua people, Nahua meaning the people of Mexico at the time, that was their language also. And what is now considered central Mexico, held a cyclical view of the universe and saw death as an integral part, an ever-present part of life. And that's what was interesting for me is that death, although very, very final, I found myself stuck in that. Whereas once I did Day of the Dead, I realized that I could create a meaningful connection with my father in a different way.
Yeah.
So his body's not here, but I can still.
It gave you, we refer to continuing bonds.
Right.
It gave you a different tethering to him. Yeah.
So the Aztecs believed that after dying, a person journeyed to Chicunamictlan, which is land of the dead. And they also believed that there were 9 levels to traverse over several years before the soul reaches final resting place in Mictlan. Traditionally, rituals honoring the dead were held in August, during which family members provided food, water, and tools to aid the deceased on their journey. In ancient Europe, pagan celebrations of the dead also took place in the fall and consisted of bonfires, dancing, and feasting. Some of these customs survived even after the rise of the Roman Catholic Church, which unofficially adopted them into their celebrations of 2 Catholic holidays, All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. All Saints' Day, I got it backwards earlier. So All Saints' Day is for the kids, All Souls' Days is for
adults.
Yeah.
Is honoring adults. And so, but it's funny because I'm just like, oh, wait a minute. Now there's another tradition that got woven in there and so is there is the meaning of All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day the same?
So one of the things, and it was interesting, and because I didn't even know about it, Debbie mentioned it to me, was that in Aztec times, there was actually 40 days of, and so they were in August, they were in the fall. And so 20 days for the children and 20 days for the adults. And once Mexico was conquered,
Colonized.
colonized,
Yes.
then the
Then
Europeans brought over their traditions and their religion, which is Catholicism.
kind of nudge themselves in there. Yeah.
Right. And so since their celebration was similar, yet not as long, then it was moved over to November 1st and November 2nd, rather than how the Aztecs had it, which was August, September.
Okay.
In medieval Spain, people would bring wine and pan de animas, or spirit bread, to the graves of their loved ones on All Souls Day. And they would also cover graves with flowers and light candles to eliminate the dead souls way back to their homes on earth. In the 16th century, Spanish conquistadores brought these traditions with them to the New World, along with a darker view of death influenced by the devastation of the bubonic plague.
Yeah.
Dia de los Muertos came to be a mixture of the Aztec festival dedicated to the goddess of Mictecacitual with the Catholic influence. Mictecacitual, known as Lady of the Dead, is said to watch over the bones of the dead and swallow the stars during the day.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And we'll see what Lady of the Dead looks.
Okay.
I think it's more familiar than people realize. And there she is.
There she is.
Yes.
Yes.
Commonly known today as La Catrina. The Roman Catholic Church rejected the Aztecs' beliefs and turned it into All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. Mexicans have since transformed it into a unique holiday that we honor every year.
Yeah.
And so how do we celebrate Day of the Dead or Dia de los Muertos today? Our customs and traditions have morphed over the years to become Day of the Dead. And that's what we celebrate today. We celebrate it with flowers, altar, food, and music. They're all integrated and part of the holiday. Cempasúchil, or marigolds, are used during Dia de los Muertos celebrations. And they're placed on the altars and on the graves. And it is thought to guide the spirits back with their intense color and pungent smell. They smell so good.
They do smell so good. Yeah.
The calaveras, or the skulls, are a huge part of the holiday. Calaveras were used during the rituals in the Aztec era and passed on as trophies during battles. Today, during Dia de los Muertos, small decorated sugar skulls are placed on the altars. The skulls are decorated with colorful edible paint, glitter, beads, and some of them, most all of them have smiles. And
we don't have this, but I will tell everybody, go to, I think within the course that you'll have a link for, which has all of this information, you'll be able to click on this link can you talk about what it is?
Yes. So my friend Sandy is, this is the video that she sent me so that we can use on our presentation. She every year makes sugar candy skulls with her kids and her kids' friends, and they decorate them. And then they do their ofrenda, which is their altar. And this video is beautifully depicted of what it looks like to create your own skulls and how you can incorporate family and create even more meaning to the holiday.
Yeah, it's a really neat video. I really enjoyed watching it.
I liked it too. I also really like the song. Very melancholic.
Yeah.
La Catrina, so the calaveras, the skulls, and the calacas, the skeletons, are prominent in today's festivities. And they come about at the beginning of the 19th century. Cartoonist and activist Jose Guadalupe Posada drew La Catrina to protest the Mexican people's desire to look more European. And La Catrina has become one of the biggest symbols of the Day of the Dead, with people painting their faces and skulls and flowers. So he did it as satire.
Right. And so it was kind of backfired.
It's kind of what represents Day of the Dead now, which is very interesting. That was not his intent, but
But I love also learning about the origin of
Right?
that. Yeah.
So, papel picado means perforated paper and is an integral part of Mexican culture. This art comes from the Aztec tradition of chiseling spirit figures on wood. It is used during Day of the Dead celebrations by stringing them on the altars and in the streets. Ofrendas showcase fire, water, earth, and air, and papel picado represents air on the altar.
Okay.
And then there's food, which I love, we love.
Yes. Yes.
Customary foods are prepared during the Day of the Dead and shared with family, neighbors, strangers, and the visiting spirits. Pan de Muertos is an essential part of the festivities and is also placed on the altars. Sugar skulls are enjoyed by the young and old during this time, and traditional food, including sopa azteca, are prepared and passed from generation to generation. You know, an interesting fact about Pan de Muerto is that that is not an Aztec tradition. That was brought over by Europeans colonizing in Mexico. They had the Pan de Muerto, and so now it's become one of the things that we use on.
It's been integrated.
Okay. And the colibri or hummingbird or your spirit guide, however one chooses to believe. It is believed that the hummingbird was Huitzitlan, who took the form of a bird to visit his beloved Xochitl. And as long as the cempasúchil, which is the marigold, exists, and there are hummingbirds in the fields, their love will last forever. The colibri is seen as a symbol of love, joy, and beauty, often associated with the sun and its life-giving energy. And it's also said to take different forms, and it's another way to guide your loved one back to you on Day of the Dead.
You know, I love the one that you brought back.
Isn't that beautiful?
See if you can give it a picture. It's just beautiful. I have it hanging over here. Maybe I'll put it on the ofrenda in the next over the month.
And I love it. Kind of matches the.
It kind of does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
I have to say, you know, birds are symbols for in so many different cultures of spirit, and so I remember somebody else had given me a beautiful glass hummingbird after my dad died, and that meant so much to me. We have a lot of hummingbirds actually in our backyard. And so
I remember when you saw this one and you're like, oh,
I know,
a hummingbird. Yeah. And so now
I know it was so funny because you were talking about colibri, and I was like colibri, and I looked it up. Oh, that's right, it's a hummingbird. Oh, okay, I know that one. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
And the ofrenda, which is the altar, the Aztecs used to offer water and food to the deceased to help them on their journey to the land of the dead. And now Mexican families set up beautifully decorated altars in their homes and place photos of their loved ones that they have lost with items that the deceased person liked to eat, drink, or play. And there's an ofrendas video. This is something that we found on Instagram that we thought was beautifully done, so we included it. And so in summary, during Dia de los Muertos, vibrant cempasúchil or marigold are used to adorn altars and graves, guiding spirits with their bright color and scent. The celebration features colorful sugar skulls rooted in Aztec tradition and symbolized by La Catrina, a figure representing the blend of Mexican and European cultures. Papel picado representing air at the ofrenda, the altar, and traditional foods like pan de muerto and sopa azteca are an integral part of the festivities. Together, these elements, including the hummingbird symbolizing enduring love, create a heartfelt tribute on beautifully decorated altars that honor the connection between the living and the deceased.
Yeah. And then there are so many people who do celebrate this across the world.
Yeah. As I was doing the research, I didn't realize, I don't know, a little self-centered maybe, that I thought Mexicans were the only one that celebrated Day of the Dead. But as it turns out, during my research, I found out that other Latin American countries also, Colombia, Ecuador, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Peru, Venezuela are just some to name a few, who also celebrate Day of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And, celebrations vary from country to country. Mainly, the underlying beliefs remain consistent. In Mexico itself, the customs and traditions can differ depending on the region of Mexico. All Souls Day is celebrated in parts of Europe. However, it is nowhere near the equivalent of the festive celebrations of Day of the Dead in Mexico. And I think I mentioned to you, Debbie, that there are big parades in Oaxaca,
Mm-hmm.
and people go every single year. And if you want to experience that, this year already it's been sold out. So
Wow.
basically, book now for next year
Mm-hmm.
so that you can experience what that looks like and what that feels like. And I haven't gone myself. I hope to go one day soon. But yeah, I want to experience it over there.
Okay.
How you can celebrate Day of the Dead in the USA respectfully by understanding its customs and honoring its traditions. And although Day of the Dead is close in date to Halloween, it is distinct from Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Our cultures and traditions should not be compared. It's just out of respect. But most Mexicans appreciate when people from other cultures show interest in and respect for their culture.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I'm just gonna take that out. Just you and I talk.
Yeah.
Is that I'm really excited that this year we invite anybody who would like to share a brief story about their loved one and a picture. You can do that online. And so you can go to our website, calabasascounseling.com, and go to the page that's for the Day of the Dead. And it will show you, you can click over to send us a message. You do not have to include your name if you do not want to. Anything that you send us is not going to be confidential. Okay. If it's online, but again, you don't have to put your name up there if you don't want to. We already have a few people who, I know you have yours.
I have mine.
I have mine. I did something about my brother, and we've had a few other people, Jen and
Katie.
That's right. And it's been, I have to say, you asked me before we started what's been like for me in doing this, and I have really just loved this because I didn't grow up with these traditions at all. And so it's been such a lovely way for me to visit on purpose my brother and my mom and my dad. And so actually I have their pictures up here. And yeah, it's been, I've really, it's really moved my heart in doing this. It gives permission for, we want to be able to talk about our loved ones that aren't here anymore. I am pretty known for reading a poem by John Polo about why we talk about them. We talk about them sometimes because nobody else is talking about them.
Right.
And this is such a beautiful tradition of giving permission to here. We want you to tell those stories.
Yeah. And, we've talked about this in our meetings before. People don't mention or bring up our deceased relatives because they feel like they're going to remind us, and then we're going to get sad, but we never forget them.
Right.
So actually you talking about them is positive and it's good. And I think that walking into your office today and seeing your mom and dad and your brother felt so warm and loving. It felt, it's normalizing.
Yeah.
That they are gone, yet we can share and talk about them and bring light and love. And so that was one of the reasons why I love what you've done over here. It's beautiful.
Thank you. It was really, it is really, it is good for my heart too.
Right.
And we hope good for many other people's hearts that we are really trying
I
to
hope so too.
include. And so we're gonna we have some time after this
Mhm.
that we're gonna do an altar in our waiting room in this suite and our waiting room in the other suite. And so we invite you, if you would like to come by and include it in person, you're more than welcome to do that too. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very, very much.
Thank
I really, really
you.
appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for including me
My pleasure.
and bringing awareness of Day of the Dead to our community, and hopefully this can reach enough people and make a difference in someone's life that they decide that they want to bring out their loved ones' pictures and put them out and talk about them and join in the conversation and normalize grief.
Because this is really about reducing grievers' isolation
And the stigma.
Yeah. So if you guys, we will have this posted afterwards. Any comments you want to make, if you want to share a story online, in the platform that you've seen, we'd love to see that too. So we can't see any comments that you may have made. I'm so sorry. But thanks for joining us.
Thank you.